Greetings and welcome back, fellow audio enthusiasts. It is I, Jason, your host of two-channel listening. Yes, you Europeans and the hand, you didn't like my hand gestures, huh? Anyway, I gotcha. So this week's episode is brought to you by my friends at Aperion Audio. Having signed up to do a few demos with them, Mr. Dallas said, hey, while you're looking at and listening to the Verus 3 Concert V8B bookshelf speakers, would you mind evaluating one of the newest amplifiers in our line, the home theater line, the Energy series? So they graciously sent me this E2 two-channel amplifier to evaluate it in basically what is a strict two-channel listening environment. I actually do have a mini home theater out in my front room, and I did give it some time just to evaluate it as a home theater amplifier. Nevertheless, 90% of its time spent in my two-channel space with all of the different bookshelf speakers that I've had. So let's just dive right into what this is. The Energy series home theater line of amplifiers for Aperion Audio might have some familiar characteristics to some other brands out there. What you have is a kind of economies of scale, a modular design at the factory to where they're all going to have the same chassis size. And by God, this is quite a large chassis, but I understand when you get to the E7, which has 7 of those amplifier modules inside of it, you do need a large chassis to house all that. The Energy series line comes in either 2-channel, 3-channel, 5-channel, or 7-channel. This is the dedicated 2-channel system, and it comes in at a net of 41 pounds. It is 170 watts, driving 2 channels at 8 ohms, or driving 2 channels at 4 ohms to give you 270 watts, not quite doubling. Now, the other thing that's interesting, and I just want to make clear when I said modular in design, that doesn't mean that this is the type of amplifier that you can add amp modules as you go, trying to save yourself some money and say, okay, at $1,149, I will start out with the 2-channel, and then I will add a third center when I can. I'll add the 2 rears as I can. I will add the Atmos as I can. No, unfortunately, you have to know what you want to buy up front. Aperion is a direct-to-consumer like Emotiva, and the back chassis is not slotted. It is specifically mated for the chassis in either configuration. Having said that, at $1,149 and up to $1,899 for the 7-channel version, where Aperion does go out of its way as a direct-to-consumer brand to try to, squeeze out some extra detailed tidbits for you for the prices that you are spending, similar or not similar to, say, Monolith out there that has, or Monoprice that has the Monolith amplifiers that go all the way up to 11 channels. They have a very, very stark, simple front plate, whereas the front plate of the Aperion Audio is executed a little bit more nicely, does give you a little bit more detail for what you're getting, in the fact that once you have the mains power switched on back here, you clearly know if your amplifier is on or off. If it's off, here's a picture. You have this nice Aperion Audio red. It's not a laser burn your retinas out type blue LED like so many amplifier companies out there. And then when you have it on, it's quite simple. That lovely little Aperion Audio insignia glows a nice soft white, again, and not a retina searing white that, eviscerates your room. Around back, it is incredibly simple. You have your power main, your switch on, you have your fuse, If you have a pre-pro and you want it to trigger on, this has soft start technology, and you can use the trigger in and out for daisy chaining amplifiers to a pre-pro. Out back, it doesn't get more simple than you've got 5-way binding posts. You've got these really chunky, thick, grippy binding posts that it's an alloy. It is not a steel, so it's not the magnets don't stick to it. You can do the bananas, you can do big spades, or you can do bare wire, and it grips quite easily enough. You do have, typical for this price range, you can do the RCA or the XLRs. One thing I will say there is that the signal to noise ratio using the RCA is a purported 96 dB, and if you switch it to the XLR, it is a purported 108 dB signal to noise ratio. Like the Emotivas that I've experienced in the past, for these budget amplifiers, what I will say is it's the rare times where switching back and forth from RCA to XLR had little to zero impact on any of the sonic qualities, any of the noise floor characteristics of the amp design. Now, I've owned amplifiers specifically like in audio research where there is a significant audible difference switching from RCA to XLR with those type of amplifiers. With Emotiva, with this Energy 2, I could not tell you there was anything appreciably different between an XLR and the RCA. Now it does make sense that once you add 5 modules, once you add 7 modules, and you have a lot of speaker cables and a lot of signal cables shooting at the back, you would prefer to use XLRs where you can, just to help minimize any of that RF and that lower floor noise ratios. Yeah, so just stating the facts, my use case, there was no benefit going from RCA to XLR, not in my room, not with the different components that I connected to it. The inside. There is a lot of airspace on the inside for the obvious reasons that this is made to handle 7 amplifier modules. So as I took the top plate off to let you all take a look, take a gander at the insides, you have actually rather small amplifier modules that are vertically lined up, and there's a nice little stabilizer strap that goes across the top of them. You've got your PCB boards that go right up against a full-size heatsink. You have your 4 power capacitors at the very front. At the front of the chassis, you have a very large toroidal transformer, which is where the bulk of this 41 pounds comes from besides the chassis itself. It is a very front-heavy design. I imagine with the 7 amp module version at 70-something pounds, obviously that weight is distributed a lot more efficiently. There's just not a lot of fluff, there's not a lot of hype. It is a very budget-friendly amplifier for those out there that want to make a purchase and start moving up the line with their favorite brand, in this case with Aperion Audio. Okay, now, I've owned a lot of budget amplifiers. I've owned some cheap amplifiers. I've owned a lot of vintage amplifiers. I need to set the stage for, what I'm going to say about the sonics in a very different light. There are very clickbaitish YouTubers out there that love to throw around the term, oh, these are giant killers. Oh, this is the best of the best of the best of the best. I think I've done that one time with a $245 integrated amplifier that happened to have Bluetooth, but I like to stay away from that jargon of giant killer because that has never been my experience with any product at specific price points. There's always something else out there you are unaware of that performs just as well or better at a given price. So let's just dispel with that kind of nonsense right at this moment. How I will preface this, how I will set the stage for what I think of it sonically is this. This is meant to be a home theater amplifier. That is why Aperion Audio brought on the Energy line, so that with their home theater speakers, that they would be able to offer more in-house, direct to you as the consumer, to have multi-channel amplifiers that are specifically built around that home theater environment, because that is what Aperion Audio first and foremost today represents. Yes, they have very nice two-channel oriented products. I think very highly of the Verus 3 Concert V8B. I highly endorse that $1,500 bookshelf speaker, but I would call this not really a crossover product, but it can be used in a dedicated two-channel environment. Now, what I mean by a crossover product is well before Emotiva, well before Monolith. There's this guy, you know, Bob Carver. I don't know, you might have heard of Sunfire, you might have heard of B&K, you might have heard of Parasound, you might have heard of Denon. Long time ago, there's also many different types of crossover products. Bob Carver had his Sunfire brand of multi-channel home theater environment products, the B&K products. Parasound had their HiFi versions and their home theater versions of amplifiers, the classic series, the HPA or whatever series. I've owned those, folks. I've had Sunfires, I've had Bob Carvers, I've had B&K, I've had Denon POA, I've had Onkyo M series. Let me be very clear. I've owned all of those. I've tried all of those. If it weren't for the fact of nostalgia, I personally would never waste another one of my dollars on any of those budget amplifiers from that time frame ever again to ever use in a dedicated two-channel system. If I wanted to listen to my HiFi system like I threw a bucket of sand on everything, sure, out of nostalgia's sake, I may go buy a Sunfire product. I may go buy one of those old Denon POAs, but let's just be clear. Those are very compromised sonic products, and they did their thing back then at that time. This little $230 beauty right here with this $1,150 beauty, that's where I would start to say this by itself, this combination already outperforms all of those things I just said. Heads and shoulders above all those things I just said from a perspective of law of averages, sonic qualities, soundstage qualities, and cleanliness of signal qualities. Okay, now that I've made that clear, let's talk about, you know, the real thing. Let's talk about how does this $1,150 amplifier made for home theater operate in a dedicated two-channel environment. So first things first, I start with the most budget-friendly of products that I have on hand. My Arylic S50 Pro Plus digital streaming DAC preamplifier. It does have preamp built into it where you can use the digital volume, and with great success I used it with the E2. Now, again, let's dispense with anything that even remotely looks like giant killer. Let's be realistic. Let's be mature. Folks out there who think that they can find a $500 amplifier that blows away a $3,000 amplifier has never had a good $3,000 amplifier. That's not what this product is. This doesn't blow away a $2,500 amplifier or a $5,000 amplifier. It is the law of averages. At $1,400, okay, throw in some speaker cables. At the different price points of bookshelf speakers that I've had all the way up to my Harbeth Compact 7s, this amplifier acquitted itself well enough. This amplifier acquitted itself well, good, average. And what I mean by that is the soundstage was average. The bass punch was average. The soundstage depth was average. The sonic separation of instruments was average for its price point. I've owned and I've played with Emotiva amplifiers in the past, and I know it's been a little over a year since I've had my last Emotiva set. At no point can I say that this has strengths or weaknesses better or lesser to those similar Emotiva products at what's basically the same price range. As a matter of fact, again, please open up a chassis of any Monolith or Emotiva, and when you look at these amp modules, the difference is, while they're, you have different colored caps, maybe this has some different transistors, this one's built with some Toshibas into it. It's good products. It's good enough for what it is at $1,150. There's nothing here that made me go, wow, I can't believe how close that got to my FEZZ integrated tube amplifier. Oh my God, I can't believe how close this got to my audio research, blah, 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 blah. No. I don't live in that world, and that's not what this does, nor is it purported to try to give you that level of performance. Let's be real with what you're buying. Any given time, I throw my Peachtree GaN-FET 400 back in place, and I'm reminded of why I like that $2,500 amplifier so well. Deeper soundstage, better separation of instruments, much more clarity, better articulation, wider soundstage, taller soundstage, longer leading edge decay. I mean, just, vocal clarity, you're getting closer to, the artist's articulation. I am overstating and oversimplifying those complexities for the sake of just understanding that you can build a nice budget-friendly 2-channel system around an amplifier like this. As a matter of fact, I reminded Dallas a couple of times that since they do have access to Blue Sound products and they do sell Blue Sound direct, in my mind, what a great pairing would be is to buy a Blue Sound Node Gen 3, since it is a digital streamer with digital volume control. Make a combination package for their customers. You go and buy a V8, you go and buy a V5B with this, with a Blue Sound Node Gen 3. Man, you know what? Now you're talking about getting into a very nice entry-level 2-channel system that's going to give you lots of quality. Live with it, understand it, know what you like about it, and then when you're prepared and you want to graduate, you can go to the V8B, you can go to a full pre-DAC streamer like my Rose HiFi RS250, and then you'll start to extract more qualities as you go along. So, to circle back, once I take this out, and to say this differently, I did connect this directly to my HiFi Rose RS250. And did it elevate the performance of this amplifier? Yes, it does elevate the performance of the amplifier to a point. Do you hear more bass reverb from bass guitars? Are you getting a little bit more of the rosin from the bows on the violins? A little bit more. It's not extremes. I don't deal in extremes here. I'm just trying to extract for you what those micro increments would look like, or should I say sound like. Again, $4,000 worth of source gear added to an $1,100 amplifier does not match a $2,500 amplifier like the Peachtree GaN-FET 400. Okay. From an integrated amplifier perspective, putting this back in, it doesn't outperform a Nova 150. It doesn't outperform a Name 5SI. Those are very smooth, hi-fi integrated amplifiers. For their price point, They do a great job. As a matter of fact, I've said lots of good things about the Nova 150. It is a fantastic integrated amplifier for its price point when it was a new product. When you put it up against something like this, it's not worse, it's not better, it's different. Before I forget, from a practical operation standpoint, there is one thing that was a good surprise with my time with the Energy 2, and that is how efficient this Class AB amplifier operated. I was quite surprised that I could leave this amplifier on day in and day out, walk away from it, not worry about it, come up to it at any given time, and it stayed no more than lukewarm to the touch. I could run all the different bookshelf speakers that I had at any given time for hours on end, 90 dB, and walk up to this, and it always remained cooler to the touch than my own Peachtree GaNFET 400 over here. That's quite a surprise. I've had more recent Class D designs that run warmer than this Class AB designed amplifier. So whoever did the circuits there, good job on actual thermal efficiency. Was quite surprised that this thing did not warm up under any of the conditions. Now, again, I didn't have huge, hard to drive floor standing speakers, but with some average 87 dB efficient speakers, I couldn't get this thing to warm up, playing it all day, never turning it off. So, it's one of those types of amplifiers that you want it to always be ready to go at any given time. You can leave this thing on and really not worry about it. It does have circuit protection, and it would shut itself off if there was some kind of overload issue at any given time. As plainly as I can state it, if you are already a fan of Aperion Audio, if you already own Aperion Audio products, this amplifier, the Energy line of amplifiers, gives you every reason to stay within the Aperion Audio family. Before this, if you were looking for a $1,500 5-channel amplifier, more than likely you would be cross-shopping against Emotiva or Monolith, maybe Marantz, or maybe even some of the other direct-to-consumer Class D variants out there, D-Sonic, VTV, etc., etc., etc. This is quite plainly a non-offensive Class AB 2-channel amplifier. There's nothing I can say exceptional about it. It acquitted itself well within the law of averages across the board. If you are an Aperion Audio fan, you now have a clear choice to stay within your Aperion Audio family, and I would imagine at some point it would make lots of business sense for Aperion Audio to start making even larger package deals as you want to add on more speakers and you want to add on a 3, 5, 7-channel amplifier. This now makes sense to stay within that brand. My apologies if you were looking for a silver bullet. My apologies if you were looking for me to say something that isn't quite true about a $1,200. If you were looking for me to say something that isn't true about an $1,149 product, you will have to go elsewhere. I say it like I see it, like I hear it. And again, no complaints. Thank you, Dallas, for allowing me time to use this 2-channel amplifier in my dedicated room. It's great for what it is. It's no better. It's no less. It's another choice out there for those looking for a budget product. And as I like to end, be kind to one another, take care of one another. Always enjoy your favorite music, but better yet, share your favorite music with somebody else. Bring them into your environment, sit them down, and spin some good songs together. Until then, I wish you all a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.